I don't know how to start this, what to say. I did just let my dog out though, so I should be able to do it without edits or any breaks needed. I just got news from a job interview I've been waiting for. I didn't sleep again. I couldn't sleep. I was anxious, anticipating this. I need it. Um, but now that it has passed and I was turned down, I I'm in a position I've never been in before. I'm freaking out. I Over the last couple of years a lot has happened, and the last few months specifically even more. Um and I'm just trying to vent. It's important to talk to people. If I could, I don't have insurance right now. If I could, I'd be going to a therapist. I do have friends. None of them live near me. Closest one is in Pennsylvania that I talk to on a regular basis. I do get to see that friend group once a year. We all get together. We call it Nerd Weekend. It's fun. We play board games, card games, video games, all the classics. But I'm at this point now where I'm 35, closer to 36, and my future is as uncertain as it has ever been, and it's got me on edge. My mortgage was due today. I don't have money. My car was due 3 days ago. I don't have money. I'm putting this out there and really don't care about the backlash it may bring. I need to get it out there. If anyone has ever gone through anything similar, I would just like to hear some feedback. So in my younger years, I figured out that I had trichotillomania, which is a disorder where I pull out my facial hair. That's the version I have. I typically have to stay clean shaven. If I try to grow a beard, it grows in very patchy. It's not because it won't grow, it's because I pull it out. I Because of that, I learned a lot about people with alopecia and other situations that cause hair loss. And since then, so I learned about all of that when I was in my later years of high school. And since then, I've grown my hair out and donated it every few years. It's been like the one thing that makes me feel like I'm contributing to society continuously. Every couple of years, something seems to happen that really takes my life backwards. I also grew up with psoriasis. Not like it ever goes away. It only impacts me really with my ears. So like inside my ears, it's always very itchy. But psoriasis also leads to psoriatic arthritis, which I played hockey for 20 plus years, snowboarded. I hurt a lot, and that's not going away. It's just going to get worse. And then, yeah, so I played sports a lot growing up, but when that really started to hurt a lot, I quit everything, and that took away a lot of my extracurriculars. And then at 18, me and my first real girlfriend of multiple months, we'll say, it was a year, but All the other girlfriends prior were like under a month because I was a teen. Um, she left me because I played video games rather than focus on our relationship a lot of the time. And that was a wake up call. I definitely needed it. But because of the situation where she was a year younger, I was trying to maintain the relationship while going to university. I didn't really care about the school I went to. I got accepted to the school in the university in the same town that I was at, and I just said whatever that will allow me to stay close. Um, but yeah, she left me right before senior year ended, and I was already at the new school. I couldn't apply somewhere else, and that town I was in was not a healthy place, and I fell into a hole. I just stopped going to classes. I drank a lot. I partied a lot. And after my first semester, I passed 0 classes and I got a D in 1 class. So my first semester GPA was a .333. And I was told that if I didn't get a 4 point, I would be removed from the university for the second semester, and I had no way of doing that, so I immediately gave up. I think for the first month I tried to actually maintain that grade, and then the first time something happened that just blew it out of proportion of being a possibility, and I fell. I quit. I stopped going, and I did the exact same thing I did the first semester. Once I dropped out, my parents owned a bar in the town next to where we were from, and they allowed me to manage it during the day, so I was able to have income. I was able to move out of my house, and I just continued partying, not thinking about ever going back to school. And it got to the point where my mom, she didn't even feel like she could have conversations with me. She felt like I had lost my mind, intellectually and mentally. So she picked up everything and moved me to Michigan. Put me back in school at a community college. So at the age of 20, I left where I grew up to never return. And I did go to school. I got awesome grades. I earned my ability to go to a university after I got my general eds done, and that led me to then having a dream of going to a specific university. I did not get accepted, and when I wasn't accepted, I fell back into the drinking hole that I fell into 4 years prior. And I got a DUI. I was not okay at the time. I didn't know what I wanted, so I fell back into however I could ignore what I was dealing with. And it ruined my early 20s. I wasn't allowed to drink. I wasn't allowed to be around alcohol. I wasn't allowed to go to bars. I wasn't allowed to go to parties. I wasn't allowed really to do anything during my university years. And that led to a real reduction in motivation for finding a job once I graduated. I know that my grades were horrible when I first went to school, but the second opportunity I did end up maintaining good grades. I was on Dean's List multiple times. I was able to get President's List my final semester, and I was able to keep my parents proud of me for a time. But when I graduated, like I said, I couldn't find a job. I didn't really have motivation to find anything that was not going to pay a specific amount. I was very entitled. I ended up taking a position at the company my mother worked at. I didn't want to, but it was the only thing that really was an opportunity for me at the time. So I took the plunge. I went into the mortgage industry, which I grew up hearing rates and all these things from the mortgage lingo that really just stuck with me, and I remember it vividly. But one of the funniest things was remembering the rates from the 90s being in the 8s and the 7s, and joining joining the industry in 2015, the rates were in the 4s, and it was just absurd to think about how much it had fallen. But that job ended up becoming my career, and that's now what I've done for 10 years, is worked in the mortgage industry. After the first couple years, I ended up leaving the branch I was with. The boss, well, my boss, the branch manager, was not a nice person. Took all of the leads and the potential for growth for himself and his son. And made it really hard to even start in the industry. But after I left the branch, I was able to build a couple realtor relationships, really dig my feet into the ground and get going in the mortgage industry. Had a solid loan officer career for the first 5 years. But I just continuously felt like I was not fulfilled. So I ended up going back to the same university that I got my undergrad from and got my MBA. I was actually able to get a half scholarship for it. So to me, hey, let's do it. Not realizing it was not going to help my career path or anything, and just build up more debt for me to look at every day. I did it though, and I graduated with honors. I graduated magna cum laude, which is absurd to think about, coming from the person that at 18 failed out with less than a 1.0. But it was a big motivator. The moment I got out of university, and see, I'm pulling my hair already, talking about all this stuff. But after I got out of my MBA program, I went back in the mortgage industry. I never left, but I'm saying I stayed in it for a bit as an LO. And I ended up finding a position in Florida, which was amazing. And I was promised that I would be flipping from being a loan officer to an underwriter. Anyone that doesn't know about the mortgage industry, it's a very simple explanation. Loan officer is the person you reach out to for the loan. They're the salesperson. They're the front line man, the person you talk to. And then the underwriter is the person on the back end that reviews all of the information that you provide to the loan officer and then determines the eligibility of the mortgage. So I was promised a flip to that, and that is honestly what I had wanted to do for years. That position is way more fulfilling because I have a specific view of the mortgage industry because of what happened in 2008. I felt like loan officers were a big reason, and underwriters not being properly trained or not given the power needed to push back was a big reason. So that was the position I had always wanted to fall into in the industry. But that position never opened. They took me from being an LO to then becoming a processor. A processor is the person that takes over for the loan officer after they capture the credit report and all of the important information, and the borrower is actually stuck with, they're not stuck, they can go somewhere else, but they feel like they're stuck with the company. So then they're passed off to somebody that does all the busy work. I did not want to do that, but I tried for about 6 months, and after that 6 months, I just really stopped putting in the effort again. I fell back into the same habits that I did when I was 18, and I lost that position. It paid a lot. I didn't care about the money, obviously, because it paid more than what I was making prior, but just because of the bonus and the continuous work overtime, but I didn't care. I then moved in with my girlfriend in Florida because I didn't have any money again. I needed a place to stay. She let me live in her room. She had a roommate also. It was a very horrible situation. I feel bad for the position I put her roommate in. But I moved in with her, and the not working and the loss of motivation and all of these other things just really did not help the relationship. And then after about a year or so, COVID happened, and it was impossible to find a position down in Florida. So I had made the decision that I needed to find a position in Michigan just because that's where I could. It's where I knew people. That's where I had previously worked prior. I had made that decision, and when I told my girlfriend, she had already made the decision that she no longer wanted to be in the relationship as well. So in March, it was like March 1st or 3rd of 2020, I moved back to Michigan, started a position at the company I'd worked for prior as an underwriter. After about 3 weeks of being back, I couldn't find a job. I had fallen to the point of getting accepted for a bartender job, and was about to start when the opening came at the other company that I worked for prior. So I was in desperation mode there, got lucky, and I loved it. The moment I got into the position, I thrived. I moved up quick. I got my DE certification, which probably means nothing to you, but it allowed me to underwrite FHA mortgages. Um, I continued on maintaining that trajectory, building up my pipeline, having a continuous flow of at least 75 new underwrites a month while maintaining resubmittals and everything else. It was a fun couple of years, really digging my digging myself into the industry and really learning about mortgages and the intricacies of different options that people have and ways to fix files that might be not working a certain way. It was a very enlightening couple of years, but after the beginning of 22, my dog, which I had found him at the age of 19, right after I failed out of college, on the side of the road on my way to work, and crazy story. Amazing dog, greatest dog ever. His name was Bruiser. Um, I ended up losing him after 13 years, and him having been the only consistent thing that I I had known really my whole life at that point. It spiraled me again. Alcohol again, and after a few months, I was able to pull myself out of it. I I had quit alcohol. Um, and then I was able to have a conversation with my ex, and we thought that getting back together after the changes that I had made um, was a good idea. It wasn't. I still was just not motivated to maintain the relationship or put the effort in. I was with her for another year and a half before I ended up letting her go because I felt like I was holding her back. She wanted a family and all of these things, and I still don't know how I could be a father with everything I've gone through. I continuously go through. I have no money. Like how could I? So yeah, I let her go. Um, and then my job, after 5 years of awesome production and maintaining the continuous workflow, things really started to slow down. Over the year of 23, it slowed down a lot, and there were a lot of layoffs, and I was not part of them. I got lucky. I think a lot of it had to do with my production and the continuous consistency with it. I never had repurchases, buybacks, indemnifications, any post closing issues. So I felt like I was going to make it through any of the cuts, and I did. So it comes time of year that me and my friends all get together. This typically happens fall time. So it was November of 23, and I went to Nerd Weekend. I brought my computer with me because I like to do work sometimes while I'm watching the boys play Magic, or people are playing Super Smash Bros. I can get a file in here and there, and I did that throughout the weekend. And then Monday I had off because of driving back. And on my drive back, my mother called me to let me know that the layoff cuts had spread beyond just the department and into the executive team, and she was let go. So I obviously at that point was let go too. It was easiest decision for them. They were able to cut off hundreds of thousands of dollars of salary in one swipe of a pen. And I tried to find a job for about a month. I couldn't. I cashed out my 401k at the time and lived off of it for a few months. During that time, I traveled down to Florida to see my grandparents a lot. The Lions actually made a crazy playoff run, so I went to one of the games here in Michigan. I went to another one over in California. And then eventually I found a position. I thought it was perfect. I really enjoyed this position a lot. After just a few months, I was elevated to take over for a branch that had lost their underwriter. A couple more months, a branch had lost their operations manager, and I came over to take over their underwriting. And then April happened of this year. And in April, I found out that my grandmother, who was in the Pentagon during 9/11, had a terminal illness caused from it. She was losing lung capacity at a rapid rate. My grandfather, her husband, had a skin cancer condition. My actual father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and my stepfather was diagnosed with prostate. And that month really hurt me. I knew I only had a couple months with my grandmother. I can't complain. As I already said, she was in the Pentagon. I already got 24 bonus years, but it was an abrupt realization that she was no longer going to be there anymore. And my father needed to take off work for his surgery. And he doesn't live in Michigan. My parents got divorced around where I graduated undergrad, with my general eds at the community college. So I made the decision when I learned that everyone was going through what they were, that I needed to be there for some of them. So I reached out to my job, and I made this dumbest decision of my life. I work remotely. I said I needed a break. I didn't have short-term or long-term disability, so there was no opportunity for me to do that. Um, and I left the best position I've ever had with no guarantee of it being available. So I left. I sat at home. I thought a lot. I I don't really leave my house anymore, other than to go to my sister's house where my nieces and my brother-in-law live, or to my mother's house. It's weird. I didn't used to be this way. Like I said, I grew up playing sports and partying. I was an outgoing person for many years. But over the last few years, something has changed. And these continuous trials are really taking a toll on my interest in even trying to go any other place other than my family's. The world is scary right now. But yeah, I stayed home a lot. I didn't do anything. I prepared myself for what was probably going to be the last time I ever saw my grandmother. And in June, I went down there to Florida to watch her for 2 weeks. Well, 1 week without my grandfather. Because he had to go to Idaho to go to other grandchildren's graduation, and she was not able to travel. And during that time, I really realized a lot of the magic I've lost over my years. When I was younger, I loved art. I drew a lot. I painted sometimes. I'm really surprised I never got into video editing or anything, because I feel like the correlation is there. But other things took precedent at the time. Not that they should have, but nonetheless, I got there and I had a lot of talks with her about my life and the things I was going through. And while I was there, I found out the position that I had been given at a new company was no longer available. And I was back to this feeling of being 18 and not knowing what to do, because I just could not find a job. I've been trying What do I do? Do I go back to school? Do I get a law degree? I don't have the assets to even attempt something like that. I can't start a business. I don't have the assets to do something like that. So, yeah, while I was down there watching her, um, I lost the position that was available for me at another company. It was removed. They no longer were hiring for it because of cutbacks, whatever. So I got back home and got back into applying continuously, interviewing, and it became time for me to then now go see my father because surgery was done. He was having issues with um, his drain tube and just continuously needing to go to the ER. So I made the point to go down there early, um, before one of my best friends' bachelor parties, and then stay extra after. And we've never really had the best relationship, but seeing him have to go through all of that alone was really hard. And it really made me think about my life and being alone and not having kids to come help, not having grandkids to come help. I'm trying to keep my cool, man. I don't cry often. But I'm not on a path that any of that's going to be a reality for me. And it's because of what I've chosen to do with my life. I I gave up 17 years ago. And it sucks. Really weird to be 35 because I remember being like everything that I've told you. I remember it all like it's yesterday. And I'm closer to 50 than I am 20. And that is fucked up. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. My father is currently a pancreas cancer survivor. All of my grandparents that are blood related have had cancer. The chances are I'm going to get it also. And I'm going to be alone, like my father. But I'm not going to have anyone to help. And I don't have a job right now, or even if I maintained the position I did, there was no way I was going to ever have enough money to help combat something like that. This industry doesn't protect against medical situations like that. My mother was working throughout everything she went through with her cancer. I've come to a position in my life where I don't know what's next. I've tried everything. I'm at the point now where I'm sending texts to every single person I've ever worked with professionally, trying to see if they know anybody that's hiring. If I move backwards in my field, I will fall back to the point where I probably can't move forward for multiple years. If I move backwards, I'm going to lose my home, my car. I don't know. And I don't really know what I expect out of this. I just really needed to talk about it. It's been a lot, and it's impossible for me to have the conversation with my family. We have this particular issue where none of us are able to talk without the other one talking over them. And it only happens between us. I typically don't see us ever act that way around other people. So that's really out of the cards. And I don't have insurance, so I can't even act like that's an option. So I'm kind of stuck here venting to OBS and hoping if I ever decide to post this, someone else has gone through something similar. And has some advice for a 35-year-old single, unemployed, borderline bankrupt American. This is what we're all subject to at this point when it comes to the job market. And at this point, I have to entertain a retail position, a service industry position, something. My dog needs food. My dog needs to get fixed. She turns 1 in a month. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not feeding her anything. I have plenty of food currently. I'm just talking about the costs associated. I will run up my credit cards forever for her. It's not even a question. I don't know. I don't know what I expect from this or expected. But this is my life and what I'm going through right now, and I needed to tell somebody. Thank you for watching.